The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fear as Preston clutched Damian's hand, his voice cracking with raw urgency. "Please, Mom. Dad. I need the surgery now, or I'll lose everything." Their cold stares said it all, the silence heavier than any diagnosis the doctor had just delivered. Preston's heart pounded against the monitors, each beat a reminder of the congenital defect that had lurked since childhood, but now demanded immediate intervention in this sterile Chicago ward. Damian stood beside the bed, his tall frame rigid, dark eyes locked on the couple who had driven 3 hours from their suburban Illinois home, only to deliver rejection wrapped in faith and disappointment. Preston had always known his parents' views on his life, but he never imagined it would come to this. At 28, he had built a quiet existence in the city with Damian, the software engineer who had become his anchor after they met at a mutual friend's rooftop party 3 years earlier. Damian's easy smile and steady presence had pulled Preston out of years of hiding, teaching him that love between men could be simple, profound, and worth every risk. They shared a small apartment in Lincoln Park, weekend hikes along Lake Michigan, and late-night talks about dreams that felt possible together. Preston worked as a graphic designer, crafting logos for startups that mirrored the vibrant life he had finally embraced. But the chest pains had started subtly, dismissed at first as stress, until scans revealed the truth. A valve issue that surgery could fix, but only if acted on quickly. His parents, Robert and Linda, sat across the room like statues carved from old convictions. Robert, a retired accountant with a firm handshake and firmer Bible quotes, cleared his throat. "Son, we've prayed on this. This lifestyle of yours, it's not what God intended. We can't support something that goes against everything we raised you to be." Linda's eyes glistened, but her lips pressed thin, the same expression she wore when Preston came out at 22 during a tense family dinner that ended with slammed doors and months of silence. They had never met Damian properly, only glimpsed him once at a hospital visit and labeled him the reason their son had strayed. Funding the procedure, signing consents, even just being there emotionally. All off the table. "We love you," Linda added softly, "but we won't enable this path." Damian's grip tightened on Preston's fingers, a silent vow amid the storm. He had seen this coming in the weeks leading up to the diagnosis, when Preston's calls home grew shorter and more pleading. Damian's own family back in California had welcomed him with open arms years ago, but he understood the cultural chasm here in the Midwest heartland. As a black man who had faced his share of prejudice, Damian knew rejection's sting, yet nothing prepared him for watching the man he loved beg for his life only to be met with conditional affection. "Mr. and Mrs. Harlan," Damian said evenly, voice low and measured. "This isn't about lifestyle. It's about saving Preston's life. The doctors say delay could be fatal." Robert's gaze flicked to Damian with barely concealed disdain, as if the very presence of this partner confirmed every fear. The argument stretched into the evening, nurses glancing in with concern. Preston's voice rose then faltered, tears he hated showing spilling over. "You think my being gay caused this heart problem? That's not how medicine works, Dad. I need you. For once, just be my parents." The room grew colder. His mother wiped her eyes but stood firm beside her husband. "We've given you everything, Preston. Church, education, values. This surgery. It feels like we'd be blessing what we know is wrong." They left without promising anything, footsteps echoing down the hallway like finality. Damian stayed, pulling a chair close, his thumb tracing circles on Preston's palm. "We'll figure this out, babe. Insurance, loans, whatever it takes. You're not doing this alone." Outside the window, Chicago's skyline glittered indifferently, the lake breeze whispering through cracked vents. Preston closed his eyes, the weight of years crashing down the secret boyhood crushes he buried. The college friendships that turned romantic only to end in fear. The slow awakening with Damian that felt like coming home. Now this. His body betraying him just as his heart had finally found peace. Damian hummed an old song they loved, something soft from their first date at a jazz club, filling the silence with quiet strength. Friendship had been their foundation too. Mutual friends like Alex and Jordan had formed a tight circle that offered laughter and support when family faltered. But tonight, even that felt distant. Preston squeezed Damian's hand harder. "I can't lose you because of them." Damian leaned in, forehead to forehead. "You won't. This is our story, not theirs." By morning, the doctors confirmed the urgency. Surgery within days or risk irreversible damage. Preston's savings were meager. Damian's job paid well, but not enough for the out-of-pocket nightmare without parental cosign. Calls to friends yielded small loans. A GoFundMe launched in hushed tones. Yet the real battle raged inside Preston. The identity crisis he thought conquered resurfacing with every ignored text from his parents. Was his love for Damian truly the sin they claimed? Or was their refusal the true betrayal? He stared at the ceiling, heart monitors beeping a rhythm of doubt and determination. Damian brought coffee and bagels from their favorite spot, eyes shadowed from a sleepless night on the pull-out couch. "One step at a time," he said, kissing Preston's knuckles. The city outside hummed with life, oblivious to the fracture forming in their world. Preston nodded, but inside, the plea echoed louder. Parents who once bandaged scraped knees now refusing to save their son's heart. The choice was made, and its consequences would ripple far beyond this room. Weeks blurred into a haze of medical consultations and whispered strategies. Damian took unpaid leave from his tech firm, turning their apartment into a makeshift war room with printouts of financial aid forms and second opinions from specialists across Illinois. Preston's condition worsened subtly at first: shortness of breath during simple walks along the lakefront, fatigue that stole the joy from their evening routines. Friends rallied. Alex, a straight ally from Preston's design studio, organized a fundraiser at a local bar, while Jordan, Damian's college buddy who had come out years earlier, shared stories of his own family battles to keep spirits afloat. "You've got us," Jordan said during one late-night hospital visit, his arm around Damian's shoulders. Blood doesn't always mean family. It was the kind of support that highlighted the gaps, the chosen bonds stronger than blood ties fractured by prejudice. Preston lay in bed replaying childhood memories that now tasted bitter. Summers in their small Illinois town, learning to ride bikes under his father's watchful eye. Sunday services where love was preached but never extended to boys who liked boys. Coming out had been a calculated risk after college, hoping time would soften their hearts. Instead, it widened the chasm. Damian's presence in their lives had only accelerated the rift. Robert once muttered over the phone that that man was corrupting their son. Now, with surgery looming unpaid, the stakes felt existential. "I feel like I'm being punished for finally being happy," Preston confessed one afternoon, sunlight slanting through blinds onto Damian's face. Damian listened without interruption, his own journey flashing back, the supportive parents in Oakland who marched in pride parades, the contrast that made this rejection sting sharper. "Your happiness isn't a punishment," he replied softly. "It's the bravest thing you've done, and I'm here for every second of it." Society's gaze pressed in too, subtle but constant. At the hospital cafeteria, whispers followed when nurses learned of their relationship. A colleague of Damian's at work offered condolences laced with awkward questions about how this fits with your lifestyle. Preston internalized it all, the identity crisis he had thought buried clawing back. Nights brought panic attacks where he questioned if loving Damian had invited this illness, if the universe echoed his parents' verdict. Damian countered with patience, sharing books on queer resilience and planning small escapes. Wheelchair rides to the Art Institute where they lost themselves in paintings of lovers across time. Friendship deepened their bond. Alex and Jordan became confidants, helping navigate insurance loopholes and even contacting distant relatives for potential aid. Yet the core plea remained unanswered. Preston's text to his parents went unread. "Mom, the doctor said tomorrow could be too late. I need you." The turning point arrived on a rainy Thursday when the hospital administrator delivered the verdict. Without full funding or co-signature, the procedure would be postponed indefinitely. Preston's face drained of color as Damian argued fiercely in the hallway, voice rising for the first time in weeks. "This isn't charity. It's a son's life." Back in the room, Preston broke. "They'd rather watch me fade than accept who I am." Damian held him through the sobs, his own eyes wet, the weight of societal pressure and family betrayal settling like lead. In that moment, their love shifted from tender romance to forged steel, a partnership tested by fire. Damian made calls late into the night, leveraging contacts for emergency grants, while Preston stared at family photos on his phone. The smiling faces from holidays passed now symbols of conditional love. As days ticked by, Preston's health declined further, forcing bed rest and oxygen support. Friends rotated shifts, bringing stories of their own growth to distract. Alex recounting his divorce and rediscovery of self, Jordan sharing how therapy helped him forgive his conservative upbringing. These conversations wove a tapestry of shared humanity, reminding Preston that his journey was part of something larger, men loving men not as aberration but as truth. Damian cooked simple meals in the hospital microwave, recounting their first vacation to New York where they walked hand in hand through Central Park without fear. "That feeling, that's what we're fighting for," he said. Preston nodded, resolve hardening. The refusal had sparked not just crisis but clarity. He would not let prejudice define his end. Together, they drafted a letter to his parents, raw and unfiltered, detailing every memory of love given and now withheld. Mailed with trembling hands, it felt like one last bridge. Outside, the city lights flickered on, indifferent yet promising that even in darkness, connections endured. Damian kissed him goodnight, whispering promises of tomorrow. The storm was building, but so was their strength. The letter went unanswered for 10 agonizing days, each one marked by worsening symptoms that turned simple conversations into labored efforts. Preston's chest tightened with every breath, doctors warning of fluid buildup that could cascade into failure without the valve repair. Damian barely slept, shuttling between work calls and bedside vigils, his once bright eyes hollowed by exhaustion. Their shared friends formed a lifeline, Alex coordinating community donations that trickled in from local LGBT centers, Jordan researching clinical trials as backup. "We're not giving up," Alex declared during a group video call, his voice steady amid the tension. It underscored the multi-layered bonds. Love as romance, friendship as armor, all pushing against societal walls that labeled their relationship lesser. Flashbacks haunted Preston during morphine-laced naps. He recalled the summer he turned 16 in their quiet Illinois suburb, sneaking glances at the boy next door while his father preached responsibility at the dinner table. Hiding crushes through high school, college experiments whispered in dorms, the terror of discovery. Meeting Damian flipped the script, a man who saw him fully, no apologies needed. Their first kiss under string lights at that rooftop party had felt like destiny, laughter mingling with nerves as Chicago's breeze carried possibilities. Now, those memories fueled anger at the parents who had clipped his wings with every unspoken rejection. "They raised me to be kind," Preston rasped to Damian one evening. "But kindness stops at my door." Damian nodded, sharing his own scars. Family acceptance had been a privilege, yet workplace microaggressions and street stares reminded him the world wasn't fully safe for men like them. The breakthrough came indirectly through crisis. A sudden arrhythmia landed Preston in ICU, monitors screaming as Damian paced outside, fists clenched. Doctors stabilized him temporarily, but the message was clear: surgery or surrender. In the waiting room, Robert and Linda appeared unexpectedly, faces etched with something new, fear mixed with stubborn resolve. Preston's letter had reached them after all, cracking the facade. "We read it," Linda said, voice trembling as she approached the bed later. "Your words. They hurt, but we prayed more." Robert stood silent at first, then spoke of their church community's judgment, the fear that supporting this would invite divine wrath. Yet seeing their son pale and wired to machines shifted something. "We can't pay for everything," Robert admitted gruffly, "but we'll co-sign what we can. It's not forgiveness, its duty. The concession felt hollow, laced with conditions. No public acknowledgement of Damian. No changes to their lifestyle post-recovery. Preston's heart soared, then plummeted, partial victory tainted by the same prejudice. Damian watched from the corner, jaw tight, understanding the sacrifice this represented for Preston's family ties. Their relationship deepened in the shadows. Late-night talks turned philosophical, exploring how identity crises forged resilience. "You've grown so much," Damian said, tracing Preston's jaw. "From the guy who hid his smile to the one fighting for us both." Friends celebrated the news cautiously, Jordan toasting with hospital coffee. To chosen family winning one round. But societal pressures lingered. Hospital staff exchanged glances. Insurance hurdles multiplied. Preston's internal storm raged. Gratitude for the crack in refusal warring with resentment at the strings attached. He chose growth, deciding this partial support was a step toward his own autonomy, not validation of their views. Surgery was scheduled for the following week, a narrow window. Preparation involved emotional inventories. Preston writing unsent letters to his younger self. Damian organizing a small gathering of friends for quiet encouragement. The night before, they lay side by side in the dim room, hands intertwined. "Whatever happens," Preston whispered, "you've shown me love without limits." Damian's response was a kiss, soft and affirming, encapsulating their journey's core. Two men building a future amid ruins of expectation. Dawn brought nurses and final checks, the city awakening below. Robert and Linda waited in the lobby, their presence a reluctant bridge. As Preston was wheeled away, he locked eyes with Damian, a silent promise amid the beeps and bustle. The refusal had forced confrontation, but this moment marked transition from plea to perseverance. Consequences loomed, yet in their shared gaze lay the seed of something unbreakable. The operating room doors closed with a soft click that echoed like finality, leaving Damian in a limbo of plastic chairs and vending machine coffee. Hours stretched, each tick of the clock amplifying the what-ifs. Friends flanked him, Alex scrolling donation updates on his phone, Jordan recounting survival stats from online forums to fill the void. "He's strong," Alex murmured, echoing the growth they had all witnessed in Preston over the years. Damian's mind wandered to their shared history. The quiet proposal-like moment on a Michigan beach where words weren't needed, just the certainty of forever. Society's undercurrents pulled at him too, articles in his feed about healthcare disparities for queer patients, the subtle bias that made this fight harder. Yet Damian channeled it into action, updating the GoFundMe with progress notes that drew more support from strangers who understood. Inside the procedure, complications arose as doctors had feared. The delay from parental hesitation had allowed scarring that extended the operation. Preston's parents sat across the waiting area, Linda twisting a rosary, Robert staring at the floor. Their regrets simmered unspoken. The letter's words replayed in Linda's mind, exposing how their protection had endangered the child they claimed to love. Robert grappled with sermons that once justified distance, now clashing with the reality of a son on the table. When the surgeon emerged, scrubbed and weary, the news was mixed. The valve was repaired, but postoperative risks remained high due to the postponement. "He's stable for now," the doctor said, "but recovery will test everything." Relief washed over the group, yet Damian sensed the fragility. Preston's body had paid the price of prejudice. Awakening in recovery, Preston's first sight was Damian's face, relief flooding his features. "You made it," Damian whispered, voice thick. Their hands met again, the touch a lifeline through pain and tubes. Friends visited in shifts, sharing laughs that lightened the sterile air, stories of past adventures. Plans for future hikes once strength returned. But family dynamics shifted uneasily. Robert and Linda visited daily, their interactions stiff. Linda bringing homemade soup, Robert muttering about bills. Conversations skirted the gay relationship, Damian politely absent during their hours to avoid tension. Preston noticed the cracks, his mother's eyes lingering on Damian's empty chair with unspoken questions. "We almost lost you," Linda admitted one afternoon, tears falling. "That letter. It made us see." Yet admission came without full apology, the refusal's shadow lingering like a scar. Preston's internal growth accelerated in the hospital bed. Reflecting on the identity crisis that had peaked during the wait, he realized his love for Damian wasn't the weakness his parents feared, but the strength that carried him through. Flashbacks to early doubts, wondering if he could ever be normal, dissolved into acceptance. "I choose us," he told Damian during a private moment, the words a vow amid beeping monitors. Societal judgments still nipped at edges. Discharge paperwork with checkboxes that felt judgmental, nurses polite but probing questions. Friends provided balance, Alex organizing a welcome home party, Jordan facilitating a support group intro for queer health issues. The multidimensional web love, friendship, family tension, societal navigation wove tighter, each strand strengthening Preston's resolve. Complications hit on day 5 post-op. An infection from prolonged vulnerability, sending Preston back to ICU. Panic rippled Damian's face, paling as doctors rushed in, parents hovering with fresh guilt. "This is our fault," Robert muttered to Linda in the hall, the first crack in their armor. Damian overheard, confronting them gently. "He needed you sooner. But he's fighting now." The exchange planted seeds of regret, though pride kept full admission at bay. Preston emerged stronger, lungs clearing, spirit ignited. Their bond evolved romantic moments stolen in recovery walks down hallways, hands brushing under blankets. "You've become the man I always saw," Damian said, eyes shining. Preston's smile returned, tentative but real. The crisis had forced maturation, from pleading boy to resilient partner. As discharge neared, plans formed: apartment adjustments, therapy for all. The parents' decision, once a wall, now a mirror reflecting their errors. Chicago's streets beckoned below, promising a new chapter built on hard truths. Homecoming felt like rebirth. The Lincoln Park apartment bathed in afternoon light as friends helped unpack medical supplies and rearrange furniture for Preston's limited mobility. Damian took the lead, cooking nourishing meals and tracking meds with military precision, their routine a testament to partnership forged in fire. Preston's energy returned in waves, short walks to the balcony overlooking the park, where they watched joggers and dogs, symbols of normalcy reclaimed. Friendship circles expanded the joy, Alex dropping off adaptive art tools for Preston's design work, Jordan hosting virtual game nights that kept isolation at bay. These interactions highlighted growth. Preston no longer hiding parts of himself, openly discussing the ordeal's emotional toll with the group. Family visits introduced complexity. Robert and Linda drove in weekly, bearing casseroles and cautious conversation. Regret manifested subtly at first. Linda asking about Damian's job with genuine interest, Robert inquiring about recovery stats without the old sermon undertones. One evening over dinner, the dam broke. "We were wrong to wait," Robert admitted, voice gravelly, eyes on his plate. "The church, our fears, they blinded us. Seeing you like that in the hospital, it broke something in us." Linda nodded, tears flowing freely. "We hounded you with conditions when you just needed parents. That refusal, it nearly cost us everything." The words hung heavy, a long overdue reckoning. Preston listened, heart aching with mixed relief and lingering pain. "I forgive you," he said finally, "but it doesn't erase the damage. Damian's part of me, all of me." The parents glanced at Damian, who sat quietly supportive, and for the first time, nods held acceptance rather than tolerance. Society's lens softened too in small ways. Neighbors offered well wishes upon learning of the surgery. A local LGBT community center invited Preston to speak on resilience, turning personal struggle into shared strength. Yet challenges persisted. Workplace adjustments for Damian's extended leave, financial strain from uncovered costs. These forged deeper maturity in both men. Damian reflected on his role, not just lover but advocate, realizing the journey had expanded his empathy beyond their bubble. Preston's identity solidified. No more internal wars, just quiet pride in the man he had become through crisis. Romantic evenings returned, candlelit dinners on the couch, soft music from their first dates, kisses that spoke of survival and second chances. A pivotal confrontation arose during one family visit. Robert pulled Damian aside on the balcony. "I judged you without knowing you," he said, extending a hand. "Thank you for standing by him when we didn't." Damian accepted it, the gesture marking a bridge across divides. Linda hugged Preston tightly afterward, whispering of church counseling they had sought, steps toward understanding men who loved men. The multifaceted relationships, romantic devotion, familial mending, societal integration, converged in healing. Friends witnessed the shift, toasting at a low-key gathering, to second chances and real family. Preston's health stabilized fully, doctors clearing him for normal life, though scars remained as reminders. As months passed, the couple traveled short distances, weekend drives to Michigan where the lake mirrored their calm. Conversations deepened. Dreams of adopting someday, advocacy work to prevent others facing similar refusals. Preston's art evolved, incorporating themes of light-piercing shadow, a visual diary of growth. Damian proposed quietly one sunset, not with rings but with a shared notebook of future plans, affirming their bond's endurance. The parents' late regret had catalyzed change, though it couldn't rewind time. Preston often pondered the what-if of immediate support, but chose forward focus. Their story, born of plea and denial, now bloomed into quiet triumph, two men whose love had weathered storms and emerged wiser. Autumn leaves painted Chicago in golds and reds as Preston and Damian marked 1 year post-surgery with a quiet rooftop dinner, the skyline their witness. Life had normalized yet transformed. Preston back at his design firm with renewed passion. Damian promoted at work for his dedication. Their apartment brimmed with mementos, framed photos of hospital friends. A new painting from Preston depicting two figures leaning on each other against a stormy sky. Family ties strengthened gradually. Robert and Linda visited for holidays, conversations now including Damian fully, their regret a catalyst for ongoing dialogue. "We can't change the past," Linda said during Thanksgiving, "but we're choosing better now." Robert nodded, sharing stories from his own youth that hinted at buried fears, humanizing the prejudice that once divided them. Friendships remained the steady chorus. Alex and Jordan joining for game days, their support evolving into collaborative dreams like a community fundraiser for queer health access. Societal navigation grew easier too, Preston speaking at local events about identity and resilience, turning personal scars into advocacy. The journey's high points culminated in subtle victories. A family vacation where all four shared laughs without tension, Damian and Preston's hands held openly. Internal peace settled for Preston. The crisis that nearly broke him had instead rebuilt his core, affirming love as his truest compass. Damian's growth mirrored it, from silent strength to vocal partner, unafraid to address biases head-on. Yet echoes lingered in quiet moments. Preston sometimes woke from dreams of that hospital plea, the refusals sting a ghost that sharpened appreciation for the present. Their romance deepened into something profound, not just passion but partnership forged through betrayal, sacrifice, and awakening. Walks along the lake became rituals of gratitude, conversations weaving past lessons with future hopes. The parents' hoi-han, voiced fully in letters and talks, closed the circle. "Your happiness taught us love has no conditions," Robert wrote once. It wasn't erasure, but evolution. As winter approached, the couple stood on that same rooftop where their story nearly ended, city lights twinkling below. Damian wrapped an arm around Preston, the wind carrying whispers of endurance. The multidimensional tapestry, love's fire, friendship's anchor, family's redemption, society's slow shift, had woven a life worth every tear. Preston leaned in, content. Their choices, from desperate plea to steadfast unity, defined not just survival but thriving. In the end, The refusal that once threatened everything became the unlikely spark for everything that mattered. True or false? The parents' refusal, though rooted in prejudice, ultimately strengthened Preston and Damian's bond more than immediate support ever could have.